Imagine paying $665 just to use a website, then finding out the people who actually use the website pay nothing. That is how applying to law school works in America, and a federal lawsuit just tried to break it open. However, last Tuesday, the judge agreed with the heart of the case, but threw it out anyway. Let me walk you through how. When you apply to law school in the US, you go through one organization. It's called the Law School Admission Council, or LSAC for short. They run the LSAT. They run the application platform that handles your transcripts and letters of rec, and every single ABA-approved law school in America is an LSAC member. If you want to apply to law school in the US, you've got to go through LSAC. That is the only path. Here is how the money part works. You, the applicant, pay $215 just to use that platform. They call it the Credential Assembly Service. Then you also pay $45 for every law school you apply to. If you apply to 10 law schools, that is $665 to LSAC alone. On top of that, you've also got to pay each school's own application fee. According to the class action lawsuit, applicants paid LSAC $93 million in fees over the course of 3 years. But the law schools pay nothing. They get a fully built admissions system, document management, communication tools, the whole thing completely free. Applicants fund the system and law schools control the system. Last August, a law school applicant finally said enough. He filed a class action lawsuit against LSAC and all LSAC member schools, arguing the whole setup violates federal antitrust law. He said LSAC and the law schools are working together as a group to keep prices high and shut out competition. He brought 3 claims before the court. 2 were about fee fixing. The first covered all law school applications. The second covered the application platform itself. And the third was that LSAC has a monopoly over how you apply to law school. Last Tuesday, a federal judge in Pennsylvania threw the whole case out. Except the dismissal came with instructions. The judge told the plaintiff exactly where he went wrong, and he gave him a deadline to come back and try again. The deadline is May 12th, in just 1 week from today. And so this is not necessarily over. And the way the judge ruled tells you a lot about how this fight's going to play out, because he agreed with 2 pretty significant things before he dismissed the case. He said the plaintiff has 2 things going for him, quote, he alleges concerted action and he has antitrust standing. The rest presents an uphill battle. Now, there are 2 things going on in that quote. The first one is concerted action. That is a legal way of saying LSAC and the law schools are working together as a group. The judge agreed that's happening. I mean, look at how LSAC is structured. Its board is elected by the member law schools. The same law schools get the platform for free, and they require all applicants to use it. So it is a group of law schools running a system together. Think about what that actually means. The law schools design the system, they run the system, and they benefit from the system. Applicants pay for all of it. The judge agreed all of that's going on. He said it on the record. The second thing in the quote is antitrust standing. That just means the plaintiff had the legal right to sue in the first place. He paid the fees. He was a direct customer, and the judge agreed. And so those are 2 real wins for the class action. But the thing is, in an antitrust case, you've got to be specific about what business you're claiming is being controlled. You can't just say law schools or applications. You've got to draw clear boundaries. For the law school education side, the plaintiff said every law school in the country competes for the same applicants, and the judge said that is too broad. Stanford and a 4th-tier school in another state aren't competing for the same students. You can't lump them all together. For the application platform side, the judge said the plaintiff contradicted himself in his own complaint. He couldn't decide whether LSAC is the only platform or whether other platforms exist, and so the argument fell apart. On the monopoly claim, the judge basically gave the plaintiff a roadmap. He said the LSAC platform actually serves 2 groups at the same time. Applicants on one side, law schools on the other, but the plaintiff only complained about harm to the applicants. He didn't even address the law school side, and so the monopoly argument fell apart. Now, the fee-fixing argument was always going to lose because it's tough to prove that nonprofits coordinating on a shared platform count as price fixing. The lawyers probably should have led with the monopoly claim, because the monopoly argument is the strongest one. And that's the part the judge said could come back if the plaintiff fixes it. And so the plaintiff will file an amended complaint by the May 12th deadline in 1 week. If he does, the case stays alive in front of the same judge. If he doesn't, the case is dead. But either way, this is going to take years. Antitrust cases drag on and on. There's discovery, depositions, motions, appeals. None of that happens fast. And so for you, the applicant right now in 2026, nothing is changing today or anytime soon. You're still paying the same fees. You're still going through LSAC. The system is the same as it was a year ago. It'll look the same a year from now. Your job is the same as it was last week. Get the highest LSAT score you can, build a real application strategy, and use fee waivers when you qualify. And don't waste money applying to law schools you don't actually want to go to. If the case eventually leads to real changes, great, but you can't build your strategy around what might happen in a federal court 3 years from now. Short term, get the highest LSAT score you can, apply to the best law schools you can, get as much scholarship money as you can. If you'd like my help, you can book a free LSAT tutoring lesson. That's an open offer for everybody watching this now or later. The link to book that free tutoring lesson with me is unpluggedprep.com/start. The link is below the video on YouTube, pinned in the chat on YouTube, in my bio on TikTok and IG as well. That is an open offer for everybody watching this now or later. If you're looking for a quick reference to help you jumpstart your LSAT prep, I've put together a free easy LSAT cheat sheet. You can grab the cheat sheet below the video on YouTube, in my bio on TikTok and IG as well. Again, that's an open offer for everyone watching this now or later. As always, I'm opening it up to anything and everything LSAT and law school admissions. Any questions you have, just drop them here in the chat. I'll get to as many of them as I can. The door is open. Any questions, LSAT and law school admissions. I see Alex is asking, is your LSAT more important than your GPA? The answer is yes. Both do play a role. In admissions, the way it works is it's LSAT first and foremost, GPA number 2, everything else a distant third, meaning your so-called soft factors like application essays, rec letters, resume. All of that pales in comparison to getting the highest LSAT score you possibly can. And if you're wondering why, it's because GPA inflation is out of control. LSAT score inflation is also a thing, but GPAs are inflated even more than LSAT scores are, and so law schools discount GPA in favor of the relatively less flawed metric. I see a question asking, will medians continue rising? I'm on the edge right now, but thinking of applying later. So yes, medians will continue to rise because there is not really anything exerting downward pressure on inflation. In other words, colleges and universities are inflating GPAs more and more. It's easier than ever to get A's if you go to an elite school, if you major in the humanities. Easy to get a 4.0 GPA or 3.9 GPA, and so law schools don't give as much importance to the GPA for that reason. They give more weight to the LSAT score because the LSAT score is relatively less gameable. However, LSAT scores can also be gamed. For example, if you retake the LSAT multiple times, the highest score is the only one that counts, and so that will lead to rising LSAT scores, rising LSAT medians. You also have LSAC granting accommodations more easily than ever before, and so that's also contributing to rising LSAT scores. And so you can't look at last year's medians and assume they're going to remain the same because they rise every single year without fail. The average LSAT score is median is 2 points higher than it was last year. That's only going to continue. And so you've got to get a higher LSAT to compensate. And so the question here, 170 LSAT and 4.0 GPA or 175 LSAT and 3.8 GPA? I would definitely say the applicant with the 175 LSAT and 3.8 GPA is the stronger applicant because 5 points more on the LSAT to that elite 175 plus level, top 1%, is more important than having 0.2 more on the GPA because LSAT is weighted more heavily. As simple as that. Of course, I could imagine if it was my kid, I'd say, get the 175 LSAT and the 4.0 GPA. We had someone in the chat yesterday who had those stats, really impressive stats, by the way. And that's the optimal situation. But I mean, why not both? If you're still in college, you still have time to raise your GPA and you have time to retake the LSAT. If college is a done deal, your GPA is what it is, then talk about just getting a higher LSAT, of course. Real Opie says, would you take Harvard with $200,000 in loans or Georgetown with good merit aid if you plan to work in DC? I guess the question is, how much merit aid are we talking about? And then what do you want to do in DC specifically? There is an argument to make for going to Georgetown with full ride, but I can see depending on what you want to do, Maybe you want to go for Harvard with the debt because you could still pay it off long term. Devil's in the details. The question is, how willing are you to take on loans? What would be the source of the what would be the source of the money if you're paying $200,000? Are you taking out grad plus loans? Are you taking out private loans? I mean, what's the source? Do you have family money, or are you paying interest on it? I think those are some of the questions I'd be thinking about, but neither outcome is terrible. They both have their benefits. You couldn't go wrong. I see Alex is asking, how many times should you plan to take the LSAT? Like, how much buffer time should you give yourself? Well, where are you starting off? What's your goal score? And what's your time frame? In other words, have you taken a practice test? What's your baseline? What kind of law school do you want to go to? Are you looking for scholarship money or a full ride? That will help determine what you should put into this process. If you're brand new to the LSAT and you want a 175, 180, you're going to need more time than if you've been studying for a while and you're just aiming for a 165. And then the question is, how are you studying? Are you taking a prep course? Are you getting coaching one-on-one? Are you self-studying? Your improvement will ultimately be a function of the amount that you study for the LSAT and the way in which you study for the LSAT. But if you're applying to law school this fall, you've got plenty of time. You've got August, September, October, November. You could take any one of those LSATs. You could take all of those LSATs and still apply to law school this fall. If you want to talk through the particulars, craft an action plan, you can book a free LSAT tutoring lesson with me. During those free tutoring lessons, we look at where you're currently at, your goal score, and then we map out an action plan to get you from here to there over that time frame. But plenty of time to get a top score regardless. Aaron's asking, is a 148 LSAT score good for never having studied? It's my first ever try. It's a perfectly fine starting point. You can improve significantly from a 148. I personally increased my own LSAT score from a 152 to a 175. Took me an entire year though, and at least half of that was a complete waste of time. If I'd done it properly, I could have knocked it out in just a couple of months because the LSAT is a test of pattern recognition. If you can spot the tricks and traps, you can avoid them. It all comes down to understanding how the test makers think and seeing it from their perspective. And once you do that, everything changes. And so I try to take the lessons I learned from my own LSAT journey and impart them to my students. One of the biggest lessons would be reviewing your mistakes in depth. We have a framework for this called the Socratic review method. It's the cornerstone of my courses and my coaching programs. The way it works is we look at exactly where your misunderstanding came from. Was it in your analysis of the argument? Was it looking at the question stem? Was it looking at the answer choices? Was it attempting wrong answer choice that led you astray? Was it an unappealing right answer choice that discouraged you? If we can get down to the root cause of what you're getting wrong and why you're getting it wrong, then we can help you avoid making that same mistake again. And if you want to talk through what that prep program could look like, what that review process could look like for you, we can talk it through together on that free tutoring lesson, that free call I'm offering. The link to book the free tutoring is in my bio on TikTok and IG, in the video on YouTube as well. That's an open offer for everybody watching this now and later. I see a question asking, is a 175 LSAT and 4.0 GPA realistic to get into Harvard and Yale law schools? Yes, it is. If you look at the medians at Harvard and Yale, the medians are going to be in the 3.9 range for GPA. For LSAT, they're going to be around a 173, 174 for the LSAT. And so if you have a 175 and a 4.0, you are technically above both the LSAT and GPA median. Of course, not a promise or a guarantee that you're going to get into Harvard or Yale. At those kinds of schools, it's not just the numbers. The softs do also play a role. They've got lots of strong applicants, but you'd be giving yourself the best possible chances if you have a 175 or higher LSAT and you've got a 4.0 GPA. And if you blanketed the T14 with those kinds of numbers, you get into a lot of those schools. I see Xi Jinping is asking, do you think a very high LSAT score can make up for a 3.0 GPA at a bad school? So I'll say this, a very high LSAT score can help to offset a lower GPA. Will it make up for it entirely? That's hard to say. Having a 3.0 GPA will not be an auto ding at a top 14 school, but it's going to hurt your odds a lot, and it will make it that much harder. Can I say there's no one who's ever gotten into a top 14 school with a 3.0 GPA? No, there probably has been somebody, but it's going to be an uphill battle, and you're going to want to have a super crazy high LSAT score to compensate for the lower GPA. But regardless, I mean, it is what it is at this point, right? Like if you've already finished undergrad, your GPA is a done deal. You're not really going to change that, but you can change your LSAT score. So I would say, just practically speaking, let's think about what can we control. The GPA, we can't change that. We can change your LSAT score though. And so my goal here would be to get you the highest possible LSAT score given the time that you can put in, both in terms of number of weeks and months between now and your target LSAT test date, and in terms of the number of hours you could put in per day and per week. And so one thing we do for all of our students is we craft for you a personal custom study plan, targeting your weak areas, helping you make the most of your limited time, laying out exactly what to do every single day from now until your LSAT test date. I see Black Coffee's asking, is the LSAT the same in Canada and the US? Yes, it is. The LSAT is the same no matter where and when you take it. It's the same in the US and Canada and the UK and India and Australia and wherever else you're taking it. It's the same whether you take it remotely from home or in person at a parametric testing center. It's the same content, same questions, whether you take it with or without accommodations. Law schools don't care where you take it. They don't care if you took it in person or remote. To them, it's all the same. They just want to see that number out of 180 be as high as possible. I see Lori's asking, my son graduated with his BS 2 years ago and has been working in DC and now for a law firm. Got a 170 LSAT. Is it enough for scholarships? So 170 LSAT is a pretty strong score, puts you in the top 3-4% or so. But there are some missing pieces here that would prevent me from giving a full picture of, will your son get scholarships? Number one, what's his undergraduate GPA? That's a big piece of the puzzle. It's your LSAT score and your GPA together that determine whether you get in and how much scholarship money you get. Secondly, it would be, which law schools are we talking about here? There are a lot of law schools in the country, nearly 200 American Bar Association accredited law schools. Each one has its own unique LSAT median and GPA median, and whether a given number will be enough for scholarships depends on how much higher the LSAT and GPA are relative to the schools that you're targeting. And so let's say the student has, or the applicant has, a 170 LSAT and a 3.9 GPA. Those are pretty strong numbers for most law schools. And so if the schools that we're looking at have a 165 LSAT median and a 3.7 GPA, then the applicant with a 170 and a 4.0 would be above, or 3.9 would be above the medians and be relatively likely to get in and also get scholarship money. But for a top 14 law school, it would be an uphill battle because it would be on the lower end. So it's all relative to the schools that we're looking at. Brunswick is asking, hey, Steve, should I even consider law school with a 3.2 GPA in poli-sci from a state school? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the biggest piece of the puzzle is missing. It's your LSAT score, right? And so 3.2 GPA is on the lower side, sure. But there are law schools that you can get into, especially if you have a higher LSAT score to compensate. And so we have a big question mark about the LSAT here. Have you taken the LSAT? If so, what was your score? And then regardless of what it was, can you retake? We've got 4 months till applications open. So you could take the LSAT in 3 months in August. Scores come back at the end of August. You can apply the second applications open in September. Or you could take the LSAT in September, 4 months from now, apply at the end of the month, still the first month applications open. And so your GPA is not going to auto-ding you or auto-deny you from any law school in the country. Some law schools you might have a hard time getting in even with a high LSAT, but there are plenty of others you could still get into. And shoot your shot. Take the LSAT, give it your all this summer, apply in the fall. You could still get into a good law school and still get great scholarship money if we can get your LSAT score high enough. And if you want to talk through what would that take, how can we craft a study plan for you over the next 3-4 months, you can reach out, you can DM me, you can book the free LSAT tutoring lesson. You can also grab the free easy LSAT cheat sheet. All of that is linked below the video on YouTube, pinned in the chat on YouTube, in my bio on TikTok and IG as well. Happy to help you out. Just scanning through the chat for other questions coming in here. I'm trying to see what are the best ones I can answer here, just given what's here. Safe is asking, thoughts on transferring to a top 4 from a top 50? I got in already, but I have a 1L and 2L SA in city I want. Summer associateship, I'm guessing, for SA. Okay, so you want to transfer, but you already have a summer associateship locked in the city that you want to be in. So I guess the questions would be, would you have to relocate and then lose the summer associateship? I mean, we're already in May. Might be hard to rearrange something new, but maybe you could stay in the city you're in right now and then move in the fall. Now, I guess the question is, have you gotten the offer? This person's talking about transferring law schools, I think. Transferring to a top 4 law school from a top 50, you got in. Okay, so you did get in. Great. I mean, is there scholarship money attached? Are you giving up a scholarship to go to a more prestigious school? That's one question I would have. Like, what's the money side of things? But if you got into a top 4, we're looking at what? Stanford, Yale, Harvard, schools like that. It might be well worth it. I mean, in terms of the prestige of the law school, going to a T4 versus a T50, those might give you very different employment opportunities upon graduating. I guess the question is, what do you want to do? Do you want to go into big law? Do you want to do a clerkship? You'll have radically different and better employment opportunities going to a top school like a Harvard, Yale, Stanford, but you might be giving up scholarship money. So something to think through there. But regardless, if you want to work in big law, then it might be worth going to the higher ranked school, even with less scholarship money, because you'll be able to pay off the debt pretty easily if you can get a big law salary. So my thought would be probably worth transferring to the T4, even if you have to relocate, even if you give up some of the scholarship money. But that's a good problem to have. Congrats. Nemo's asking about GPA. A 3.8 or 3.7 GPA from a school like UChicago versus a 4.0 or 3.9 at a mid-state school. Those are all still pretty good GPAs. Unfortunately, law schools, however, don't consider the prestige of your undergrad because they're not incentivized to do so. The American Bar Association and U.S. News do not distinguish between GPAs earned from different majors or from different undergraduate institutions. And so for that reason, law schools are not evaluating you based on any of those particulars. It's just simply the number's the number. So a 3.7 is a 3.7, a 4.0 is a 4.0. I don't think it's fair or right, but part of that is why they just discount GPAs across the board, because they are earned under very different circumstances from different undergraduate institutions, from different majors. Of course, some majors have more grade inflation than others. Not saying anything about humanities, cutoff. But yeah, basically what we got to do is we got to just get you a higher LSAT score if your GPA is what it is. And regardless, you went to undergrad where you went to undergrad, right? So if you're deciding where you want to go to undergrad going forward, or what you want to major in going forward, if you're still in high school or early college and you're thinking about what should you major in, you might choose the easier major with the easier grades. I think that's a terrible way to decide what to major in, but that is a factor for law school admissions specifically, unfortunately. But regardless, I'd say focus less on optimizing the GPA if you're late in college, because it's already a done deal. Focus more on the LSAT, because it's the area that you can move the needle more. See a question here. If your goal is big law, should you go for a partial scholarship at a top 14 law school or sticker at HYS? So I would look specifically at the top 14 law schools and their big law outcomes, because different T14 schools have different degrees of big law placement. Last I checked, I think that actually Columbia had one of the highest big law placements, and Columbia is not HYS, of course. It's still T6, but it's below HYS specifically. So look at the specifics there. It's possible you could go to a non-HYS with partial scholarship and still have really killer big law placement opportunities regardless. Walter's asking, I've been at a 173 plus on my last 3 practice tests, 180 on blind review. I expect to get 170 or better, only a 2.4 GPA though. Just wondering how badly the GPA will hurt. I mean, it'll hurt. I'm not going to lie about that. But the question is, what can you do about it? It is what it is. Let's focus on what can we control here. The GPA, I'm guessing, is a done deal. So let's not think about it anymore. You can write an addendum if you want to, talk about what were the circumstances that you were facing in undergrad that led you to have a relatively lower GPA. But let's get your LSAT score up. You're PTing in a pretty good place. Your practice tests are pretty strong. But we got to close the gap between timed and untimed. And so how can we get you up to that 180? What does your review process look like? Are you analyzing your mistakes in depth? Are you getting personal live feedback from a coach or a tutor? Or are you taking live small group classes, or is it more just videos and drills and maybe a webinar here or there? Can we get you more personal support? If you want to talk through what that could look like, you can book a free tutoring lesson with me. We could see what we can do to target your weak areas, help you find a more efficient approaches, raise your baseline. So book the free tutoring if you haven't already. We could talk through it on a call. Just scanning through the chat for anything I missed. Feel free to keep them coming. Okay, Joe's asking, with AP classes, study abroad, internships, my GPA is based on only 27 graded credits. When I apply junior year with a 3+3 program, I will make the 3.8 GPA 168 LSAT requirement. Even with the University of Scranton allowing this, will law schools like Boston College penalize me? They are one of the partner schools. Okay, so will Boston College penalize you for going the 3+3 route? I'm not sure I fully understand the question here. I mean, I'm gathering that your GPA is based on a very low number of graded credits when you apply junior year because you're applying so early for a 3+3 program. But you're still going to make the requirements for the 3.8 GPA and the 168 LSAT. Okay, so I mean, I guess I'm wondering what the problem is here. I mean, you're going to get into the program, it sounds like, because you're going to meet their minimum requirements. The thing I don't love about 3+3 programs, though, is that you don't have any scholarship negotiation leverage. In other words, you're basically going to undergrad, you're going to law school with a feeder program. And so you're basically removing the stress from your end of having to apply to a large number of different law schools and go through the whole application process. The law school is banking on your not looking around too much to other alternatives. And so for that reason, they're not going to offer you much, if any, scholarship money because they don't need to. You're basically locking yourself in. And they're locking themselves in as well, but they've also gotten the security of you having strong numbers. And I see the commenters writing, I found a loophole. I'm exploding with having so few undergrad graded classes. I mean, yeah, you're taking a few undergrad classes, and so you could look at it like you are exploiting a loophole. You could look at it that way. Like basically, you didn't have to do that much undergrad to get into this 3+3 program. But again, like the law schools found a loophole because they don't have to offer you scholarship money because you're locking yourself into going to their school specifically. And so they're thinking to themselves, this guy, Joe, is going to be paying sticker price tuition because he's applying without negotiating scholarships. So you're paying full price. Like you're taking fewer undergrad credits, but you're also paying a lot in law school tuition. So this could be a situation where maybe you're being penny wise, pound foolish, like you're saving on your undergrad tuition, taking fewer classes, speeding through undergrad faster, but then are you paying for it later? I don't know all the particulars here. I only have the context of the comments you've dropped here, but I'd be curious to know, I mean, what are you going to pay in tuition here for law school? Like what's the tuition you're paying each year? And are they giving you any scholarship money? I mean, law school is not cheap. If you look at the sticker tuition, it's typically going to be at least minimum $50,000, $60,000 a year over the course of 3 years. We're looking at potentially up to $180,000 or more, depending on the tuition. Plus you've got various fees that you're paying. You've got room and board, you've got books and such. It could add up significantly. So something worth thinking about. So look into the finer details before you sign. Consider whether you might want to apply elsewhere as well, just to have some more leverage for negotiating. And if you don't like the offer, don't take it. There's nearly 200 law schools in the US. No reason to only consider one of them just because that one happens to be in front of you. PHX says, if I apply in December with a 170 versus a 165 in September, what's better? I would think it's going to be the 170 in December. In other words, better to apply a little bit later with more scholarship money than to apply early, mixing up with the previous comment. Better to apply in December with a 170 with a higher score than earlier with a lower score. So I would take the 5 points higher and apply a little bit later. But of course, we're speaking now in May. There's no reason to necessarily make that decision. Why not get a 170 by September? You've got 4 months between now and the September LSAT, so you could get the 170 by then potentially. I'd say go a little bit harder over the next 4 months to both apply early and have a higher score. If we're talking in the fall, so if we have this conversation in 6 or 7 months, I might answer it differently. But for now, I'd say go harder now to get the score by September so that you can both apply early with the higher LSAT score. See a question, will LSAC ever standardize grading because it benefits schools with A+ now? Yeah, the system is messed up with the grading. The whole LSAC calculated GPA and the A+ situation in particular is unfair. It's messed up, and I don't know why they haven't changed it. That's up to them, though. I mean, we get to keep talking about it and advocating for it, but they're going to do what they're going to do. See a question, with a 365 GPA and a 176 LSAT, am I locked out of the T14s? Not necessarily. I mean, you are a little bit below on the GPA side, but you're above on the LSAT medians. And so you could still get in. I would say blanket the T14, apply to every single one, and you could get lucky. And your LSAT is strong enough that it could help to offset the GPA. I don't think you'll get into all of the top 14 law schools, but you could get into some of them. So shoot your shot. Tyler So Real's asking, do you think Latin honors, specifically at an undergrad with good T14 placement, matters? Wondering how much of it is competing with peers from your undergrad. So I don't think that you're really competing with peers from your undergrad specifically. It's not like it's that small a pool. Really, there's tens of thousands of people applying to law school every year. And maybe people from your undergrad applying to your law school specifically might be competing within that limited pool. But if you're casting a wider net, if you're applying nationally or even within the region, I don't think it's that. You shouldn't be looking at it with people from your undergrad as being zero sum, because you and your classmates from undergrad are going to have different LSAT scores, different GPAs, apply to different law schools. And so I don't think it's a direct competition with them. It's more just competing with the applicant pool in general. Then as for Latin honors specifically, isn't that just a function of having a high GPA? So like having a high GPA matters, sure. If you're looking at T14 law schools where the GPA medians are 392 to 399, then you want to be in that 3.9 range, of course. So the question is, are you? If so, great. If not, get a higher LSAT score to compensate. The LSAT medians of the T14 are 170 to 174. And so if you're below a 3.9 on the GPA, aim for 175 plus on the LSAT to compensate. Sarah's asking, will it look bad if I've taken the LSAT twice with no progress? I'll say this, what really matters is having the highest possible LSAT score. And so if you've taken the LSAT twice and your score is kind of lingering in a relatively low place, what's bad is just having a low LSAT score without a higher one following it at any point. And so my thought would be, let's just get you a higher LSAT score, and then the previous takes aren't going to matter. So in other words, don't worry about the optics of the score report as a whole. They don't really care that much about it. I mean, if you take it 5 times and all the scores stay low, it'll be like, is this person actually studying between takes? But 2 takes, not a big deal. Just get a higher LSAT score. Study, retake. Law schools won't care because they're not evaluated based on your number of takes. Law schools care. What's the highest LSAT score on your record? That is what they are incentivized to care about, because that's what goes to the American Bar Association. That's what goes to US News. So plan for a retake. Think about what could you do differently next time around to actually get your LSAT score higher. How did you study for those first 2 takes, and why did it not lead you to your desired result? Did you self-study with random prep books or LSAT for Dummies or just the practice tests and YouTube videos, or did you take a course? Did you get coaching? Did you get personal feedback on what you were getting wrong and why did you get it wrong? Did you have a personalized study plan? laying out exactly what to work on, targeting your weak areas. If you want help with any of that, by the way, you can book a free LSAT tutoring lesson with me personally. We'll talk through it together. You can book the free tutoring with me at unpluggedprep.com/start. The link is below the video on YouTube, pinned in the chat on YouTube, in my bio on TikTok and IG as well. Happy to help you out if you haven't booked the call already. That's an open offer for anybody watching this now or later, by the way. I see a question you're asking. Do you have insights on the opportunity cost of studying for a 177 to 179 range versus a 176? Is that a meaningful gap? Yeah, I would say so. Getting a higher score at that level could make a difference. That is meaningful. That is significant. When you say opportunity cost, it's like, well, what else would you be doing during that time? If it's like, should I get a few points more on the LSAT versus watch Netflix? Get a few more points on the LSAT. Alternatively, if you are still in undergrad, would it be more impactful to get a higher GPA or prevent your GPA from slipping? Maybe. If you need that time to work on your application essays, maybe you work on your application essays at that level specifically because 176 is already so strong and it's uncertain whether you will get the few points higher. So think about what else is left undone that you could work on instead. And what is your relative likelihood of getting a few points more? If you think you get a few points more and you don't know what else to do to strengthen your application, yeah, go for it. Ollie's asking, is retaking the LSAT back-to-back test dates, September then October, too soon to make any meaningful improvements? Or is it better to take it in November after the September LSAT? So I'll say this, 4 weeks is enough time, yes, to make meaningful improvements. You can improve significantly in just 4 weeks. Think about the people now who are studying for the June LSAT. Can they improve their scores between now and June? Absolutely. And retake prep could be as simple as taking one practice test a week, reviewing it in depth, drilling weak areas on the side. Even just one tutoring lesson, if we can help you correct a misconception regarding a particular LSAT question type, if we can help you find a more efficient approach, that could unlock a couple points already. So certainly 1 month is enough. 2 months, 3 months, you can make more improvements, of course, but even just 1 month can be significant. The question is, how much time can you put in per day and per week? Are you working? Are you in school? Do you have family obligations? The more time you can put in, the faster you can improve even in a relatively short time frame. I see Bo was asking, I'm PTing between high 160s and low 170s. My GPA is a 3.0. Okay, so that's not a huge fluctuation, to be honest. If we're talking about a 167 versus 173, that's a pretty normal margin of error or range. LSAT scores have a score band of 3.5 points on each end. And so if your true LSAT score was a 170, that means that some days you could get a 167, other days you could get a 173. The LSAT's still valid. And so I've personally never seen a student whose scores did not fluctuate at least a little bit. It's not anything to worry about. I would think that at that point, we just got to raise your baseline and help you score on the higher end, especially to offset the 3.0 GPA, which is relatively on the lower side. And so yes, a higher LSAT can offset a lower GPA. I see another commenter saying 2.7 GPA, 165 LSAT. You could still get in, yeah. You'll get into more schools with the higher LSAT, of course. So if you're not done with the LSAT, let's push it to 170 plus, ideally, right? Then we can get you better outcomes. Now I see Cyrus asking, if you have a 4.0 GPA, what LSAT do you need for T14? Well, a 4.0 GPA is very strong, of course. It's above the medians for the T14, but LSAT medians for T14 are 170 to 174. And so I would always aim for a 180, always aim to get every question right, understand everything. If you have a 175, you'll be above the medians for both LSAT and GPA and be in a pretty good position. And yes, we do have a paid program. We create personalized coaching programs for all of our students. We look at your starting point, your goal LSAT score, your time frame, and then we craft an action plan to get you from here to there over that time frame. If you're taking the LSAT in June in just 1 month, we have a more intensive boot camp style approach with live coaching 7 days a week, custom study plan, small group coaching sessions, on-demand courses. If you're taking the LSAT in August or September or October or beyond, we'll take a more slow and steady approach with coaching once or twice a week. We always personalize the program to the student. And you can find out more through the link in my bio. You can book a free LSAT tutoring lesson with me through the link in my bio. You can get a free easy LSAT cheat sheet through the link as well. And I'm all happy to meet with anybody or address questions or follow-ups. You can book a call with me. You can reach out with questions or shoot me a DM. I'll be happy to help you out and talk through what your program could look like to get you from your starting point to your goal score. I see guys asking, can a comp sci or math major go to law school or get into a competitive one? Yeah, you can. I mean, law schools do love comp sci and math majors because they're more unique. It's less cliche. They're also more employable upon graduating law school. The relative disadvantage you have, though, is that when you come from a STEM major, your GPA is typically going to be lower because your classes are brutally curved, unlike in the humanities. And so you're going to want to have a higher LSAT score to compensate for a relatively lower GPA. But funny thing, STEM majors tend to do better on the LSAT than humanities majors, and so you are perhaps predisposed to do better regardless, but make sure that you get the LSAT score to offset the GPA. And if you want help getting a higher LSAT score, you can grab the free LSAT cheat sheet. It's a quick reference I put together. Links in my bio. You can book the free LSAT tutoring with me as well. The pricing for our programs, Richard, is all customized based on the program that we'll put together for you based on where you're at and what your goals are. And so you could book the call with me. We could talk through it more. It's not a one size fits all because everyone's got different needs based on where they're currently scoring and what their goals are and when they're taking the LSAT. So reach out and we could talk through it more. And for those just joining, by the way, I actually do these lives every single weekday, same time, same place, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 Central, 11 Pacific, here on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, wherever you're watching this. Please spread the word. The algorithm doesn't really boost these lives because the LSAT's not really a broad topic. It's more of a niche topic. And so if you could share this to your socials on TikTok, share it in any group chats or Facebook groups or subreddits or Discords you're part of, I really do appreciate the word of mouth. The more this grows, the more I'll expand it over time. I'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 Central, 11 Pacific. I'll see you all then. In the meantime, I wish you all the best. Take care. Thanks for joining.